First thing you need to do is get an old pair of jeans. Then you take out your brown paper, you cut out 9 inches by 8 inches. Then this particular one is used to like get the curve. So that curve that you've got, you use it to cut out the sides of the edge of that paper. That's that particular one that you first cut. Because if you know you don't have a very, very steady hand, or you don't know how to cut it very well, all you have to do after you have cut out the edges is to turn it over, and then you're smoothing out the edges. Make sure there are no extra breaks in the marks. Yes, that is how it goes. As long as you have that, you make sure your work will be smooth and neat. After that, just remember that whatever pieces you are cutting in this video for this bag, you have to cut 3 of it. You have to cut the facing, you have to cut the lining, and you have to cut the jeans. The facing has to be one that can be attached. So after cutting the jeans and the facing, you iron them together. Remember that pocket that we were removing in the other time? You have to attach it to the jeans and the facing that you cut. This particular pocket is only for aesthetics. It is not a very, very useful pocket to use. It is only there as a decoration because this is the back of the bag. This is the part that will be at the back, but it is there for aesthetic purposes only. So if you do not need it, you do not have to add it. Make sure you double sew if you want to add it. Make sure you double sew on the line. And after that, all you have to do, that particular line, after sewing that, the lining that you cut, you have to sew it all around, leaving no space, because there is no need, you don't need that particular space for any other reason. All you have to do is pin down, and make sure you pin down. If you do not pin down, your fabric might shift, it might be distorted, it might be altered in any way. So after pinning down, you might notice that there are excesses if you are using a lining like the ones I used. So you have to sew down on the line, sew down at least 0.25 inches. Make sure you sew it down. So after sewing down, you go and cut out this particular line using your brown paper, because if you do not use your brown paper and you shift to your fabric, you will not be able to do it well. So using your brown paper, remember what I said earlier, you are cutting out 3 pieces. You're cutting the facing, the lining, and the jeans. So cutting the 3 pieces, after you've cut out the brown paper, you cut out the 3 pieces, and these 3 pieces will be the one that you'll be joining. You join the 3 pieces together as usual, as we've been doing. You iron down and you join right sides facing each other. The zip will be in the middle, and you join right sides facing each other, the lace, the lining, and the jeans. Okay, so make sure you sew down on the line. Remember, as you can see in the video, there is a reason we did not put the facing covering the whole part of the jeans. That is because if you have to sew down on the facing, that part will be too thick for it to like stay on the zip. So that's why we don't make it as thick as it should be. So you have to cut out 2 parts of a belt hole. You have to cut out these pieces too. You have to cut this into 2 pieces. You are cutting 2 of these. 2. This particular one, you're cutting only 1. The other one, you're cutting 2. This one, you're cutting only 1. So, as usual, we are cutting 3 pieces of each. The lining, the facing, and the jeans. So, trim out any excesses you might have from the... don't forget to notch and top stitch. Top stitching will make your work neater, and that is why it is top stitched. As you can see in the video, it is top stitched. That is how it usually is. Do not forget to pin down, guys. Pinning is very important. All right, so remember that belt hole that we cut, that we removed. We are using 2 belt holes. So you're sewing 2. You're sewing the 2 to both edges of the jeans. You're sewing the 2 to both edges of the jeans. So after sewing the first, make sure it is equal. Make sure it is on the line, and make sure the zip is going through the middle. That's the best way for you to do this. Make sure the zip is in the middle of the 2 parts of the belt hole loops that you are using. All right, so remember this part that we are cutting. Since we've cut, by now you should have cut out the facing and the lining. So all you have to do is sew it down. So you sew it down. All right, after sewing it down, you sew it all around. Do not leave any spaces. You do not need this space. Just make sure you do not leave any spaces. Thank you. After this is how after sewing down, you turn it right sides facing each other to the zip So the part where the zip is, this part is the middle of the bag. This part is the middle of the bag, and it's very important. We are cutting, since we have two parts of this particular piece, we are joining the two parts to either side of the cloth. So as you are joining to this side, you are joining to the other side too. Do you get that? You're joining to both sides. Then you trim out any excesses as usual. All right. So after doing that, the next part is after you've joined both sides to each other, you top stitch. You make sure you top stitch and you notch and top stitch, guys. Make sure you notch and top stitch. This is very, very important, guys. Very important. Make sure you notch and top stitch. It is important. Okay. So after top stitching, make sure there is no room for errors when you are top stitching. Make sure the inner part is neat and rightly placed. Make sure the inner is neat and rightly placed. Then remember that this is the fourth part. There are 4 different parts: the zip part, the 2 side parts, and then this particular one. This is the base of the bag. This particular long part is the base of the bag. We've cut it earlier. So this is the base of the bag, where the bag will use to sit down, that kind of thing. All right, so you join that base part to either sides of the bag piece, of the middle bag piece, where the zip is. We are still talking about the same part. Where the zip is, you join it, so it will now make it 4 parts. As you can see in the video, this is the 4th part, and we are joining both parts. We're joining both parts to each other. So that is what you can see in the video. So after we are done with that, as you can see, we have to sew it round. You sew on the edge. Sew on the very edge. Do not make the mistake of sewing too much in or too much out, as your bag might have issues. So this is the bag end. So you cut it out, and then you fold on both sides. You fold it down. This particular method will make it easy for you to sew, and because I used a stretchy jean for this particular bag. You can, if you are using a jean that is not stretchy, it might be easier for you to maybe turn it inside out and then sew on both edges. But this particular part is easier because you have to sew on 2 sides. All right, this part you have to cut out 4 inch of any part that looks neat enough on the bag. There are lines like that of on the jeans that you are using. You cut it out, and then you are going to use it to attach to the back. This is the back of the bag where the hands are going to be. So you make sure you pin down. Do not forget to pin it down, because if you do not pin it down, your fabric or your jeans might shift, your material might shift, anything can shift. All right, you sew it diagonally. You don't sew it straight. Next, we are joining the mid piece to the front of this is the front of the bag. You are attaching both sides round the bag, and this is what we have. After sewing it round, this is what we have. Then this is the back piece. You throw it into, make sure you open the zip of the bag before you sew this part, guys. And this is the end of this video. This is what we have at the end. As you can see, we have the good pocket in front. We have the aesthetic pocket at the back. Then we have the zip. We have the piece, the 4 inches piece that I talked about earlier. Then we have both belt holes. As you can see how it is now, this is how it's going to look in the end. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you so much for watching. I hope to see you next time. Please like, share, and subscribe. Thank you.